Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob. Insert quippy comment right here. Because I don't know. I don't know. I'm not feeling great about this. Can I be honest with you? I'm just not feeling great about this. So yeah. You know how big tech has been kissing a Trump's ass? You know how Mark Zuckerberg, right? He's becoming an alpha dog to prove how manly he is in this modern world. You know how this makes you feel just kind of, I don't know, just kind of weird inside? Well, here's the latest. Here's the latest thing to get you feeling a little weird. Palantir, Meta, OpenAI execs to commission into Army Reserve form Detachment 201. So executives from Palantir, from Meta, from OpenAI are going to be commissioned as officers into the Army Reserve. And now you might be sitting here and you might be going, well, wait a minute, Eli. I thought, your prior service military, your family's prior service military. Why would you get queasy with big tech executives commissioning into the U.S. military? Because the thing is when you commission into the military, you're actually a military officer, right? There's a Universal Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. It's been a while since I've said that. Right? There's this UMCJ that you're under. You can be court-martialed. All kinds of things can happen. And one of the most important things to remember is that your commander-in-chief is the President of the United States. Hey, does anybody remember who the current President of the United States is? Oh yeah, it's that guy. So that guy is now going to be the literal boss of executives from Palantir, Meta, and OpenAI. Oh. I just don't have a good feeling about this. If they said they were volunteering or they were doing that weird Doge thing that Musk did, right, there'd be some problems with there, but that is that. But they're actually commissioning into the military. So when you use OpenAI, when you use Meta, you don't really use Palantir, right? But when you're using their systems, their higher up executives, literally, their boss is Trump. In an era where Marines are being deployed to LA, U.S. Marines are being deployed to American soil. Oh, I don't like this timeline. I don't like this timeline anymore. There's an urgency, quote, there's an urgency to change and transform the Army, and these guys are going to help, said Colonel Dave Butler. Yeah. The U.S. Army today will direct commission 4 tech executives at the rank of lieutenant colonel, charging them with leading a new Army Innovation Corps inside the reserve component, according to a service spokesperson. Quote, the Detachment 201 is being created to bring in tech innovation executives, leaders to help the Army on broader conceptual things like talent management, how do we bring in tech-focused people into the ranks of the military, and then how do we train them? Colonel Dave Butler, the top spokesperson for the Army Chief of Staff, told Breaking Defense today. This initial cohort of executives includes the Chief Technology Officer of Palantir, which, okay, That we probably all understand. Shyam Sankar, whose defense reformation website has become a talking point among defense tech community. Andrew Bosworth, Chief Technology Officer for Meta. So the Chief Technology Officer of Meta is being commissioned in to the Army Reserve as Lieutenant Colonel. Kevin Well, OpenAI's Chief Product Officer, and Bob McGrew, who until November was Chief Research Officer at OpenAI. So these are the people that are helping to lead their companies. At the exact same time, they're being commissioned into the U.S. military and will be under the jurisdiction of the USMJ. I'll just point that one out for the 50th time. The four will be sworn in tonight at head of the service's 250th birthday celebration on Saturday, Butler said. The move comes as the Trump administration embraces venture capital and tech industries, including VC-backed startups like Anduril, Palantir, and others who have begun to take root as major players in the defense industrial base. The Trump administration's nominee to take the reins as the Army's number 2 civilian, Michael Abadal, is an Anduril employee. As the new era of defense tech sweeps through the halls of the Pentagon and the Army stands up Detachment 201, Butler said the service will try to ensure that there isn't a conflict of interest between the executives coming in as lieutenant colonels and the companies they still work for. Quote, there's plenty of precedent for this, Butler said. We've done this over and over when our nation needed top talent. The difference is we used to do it in wartime. Now we're doing it ahead of wartime so that we can prepare and deter. And I'll just point this out with this current administration, how there are these things that we used to do them in wartime. It's like, well, Eli, we've done this before. Yeah, during wartime. And now it seems like there's just kind of like more and more things that we used to do during wartime, and now we're just doing it not during wartime. Just put it out there. Quote, there's an urgency to change and transform the Army, and these guys are going to help. As for what the founders of Detachment 201 will be doing, Butler said, it is not expected to revolve around programs of record or big-ticket acquisitions. Instead, they will be looking at much broader topics, and there will be firewalls in place to protect both the Army and their respective companies. Quote, 201 is an effort to recruit senior tech executives to serve part-time in the Army Reserve as senior advisors. An Army statement announcing the news said, quote, in this role, they will work on targeted projects to help guide rapid and scalable tech solutions to complex problems by bringing private sector know-how into uniform. Detachment 201 is supercharging efforts like the Army Transformation Initiative, which aims to make the force leaner, smarter, and more lethal. And so just to be clear, as for my opinion on this, if they're going to bring them in as advisors or whatever, fine. Is as it is. I'm sure I'd be snarky about that, but it would be my normal level of snark. It'd be like, oh, that's snark, but that's kind of like normal level of snark. My issue here is that they're actually being commissioned into the military. Therefore, they're under the military chain of command and how all of that stuff is done. And so it will be interesting. We hear about with under the Biden administration, right? So the Biden administration went to Meta and basically tried to put the thumb on Meta to change their particular policies. But that was the outside at Meta. What happens when the CTO of Meta is now an officer in the military and the commander-in-chief makes it very clear what he wants done? And if you don't do that, again, the USMJ or UCMJ can be thumped on you. That will be a very curious question. The other thing that I brought up before too, again, when we talk about things like counterintelligence initiatives with multinational companies, global companies, is that whole idea of when you have somebody in the company and they align with some geopolitical entity, again, the United States or China or Saudi Arabia or whatever else, right? When you put on that uniform, you feel like you are part of the team. The great thing about having the uniform on is you feel like you're part of a team, and you feel like you're part of a team in a way that you'll never feel like, in anything else in life, right? There's just something about that military experience, good or bad. Like there's just Right? There's just something about that. And so you put these people in a uniform and their team becomes the U.S. Army. You are now an officer in the U.S. Army. Don't you want to do what's right for your country? Right? If you're the CTO of a technology company, even if you're patriotic, you're the CTO of the technology company, the government wants you to do something, maybe you will, maybe you won't, what? All of a sudden, you're not just a CTO of the technology company, you are a lieutenant colonel in the military of the United States of America. You are an officer in the greatest, military to ever exist in history. Are you going to let your commander-in-chief down when something is needed to happen? Right? Those are the levers you can push on people. I talked about that before. I'd be concerned about that, as I've said, with the whole counterintelligence thing. If you have people in your startup company or in your technology company that used to be in the military, how hard would it be for an old buddy of theirs to go out and buy them a beer and say, hey, you want to actually matter again? Oh, how's that React development going? Oh, you're making a crap ton of money to create stupid things for yuppies to play with? Wouldn't you like to matter again? Wouldn't you like your work to actually do something important? Like, what? Well, I work for somebody who needs some help. And if this flash drive of executables can happen to get into the next release cycle, one, that'll help us track down the bad guys like we used to. And here's $50,000 on the table, just to make it, make the wife happy. Right? Anyways, in the highest levels of these tech companies, to start commissioning officers is concerning on a number of fronts. And I'll be curious to see where this goes in the future. The other thing with this, I've been banging on for a while now about don't put apartheid in your auto signature. So I did the video a little while ago about how Microsoft is keyword blocking Palestine, Gaza. Some nitwit basically put apartheid into their auto signature on their emails and then was crying because they were getting blocked by the system. One of the points that I've been making is, for years, right, is BLM, right? BLM and pastel flags and employees going out and protesting the company on the company's dime. And I've talked about this for years, how this was stupid. This is just dumb on the face of it, right? And it would not have happened if interest rates hadn't been so low. And one of the things I've been warning you folks about is that the pendulum is shifting. In societies, the pendulum swing back and forth. And that's just how it goes, right? It goes from being liberal to being conservative, back to being liberal to conservative, and that's just kind of how you go in the future. One of the things I've been trying to point out to you folks who want jobs, right? If you don't want a job, just turn this video off. Who the hell cares? But for those of you that want jobs and they want promotions and the rest of it, one of the things I've been warning you folks about is that the technology world is becoming more conservative again. When I started in proper IT, so I started in technology in the military, but in proper IT, got my MCSE in 2000, right? That was very much a world of ex-military people that were focused on mortgages, the whole nine yards. I would have never, as a 20-something-year-old, thought about protesting my company over anything. Right? If I didn't like my company, I would have quit. But the idea of these whatever the hell's going on for the last couple of years just wouldn't have even crossed my mind. And that's been one of the interesting things just to see is since 2010, money became they were just throwing money around, hiring people that shouldn't have gotten in these companies, basically activist employees. And it's been interesting to see how that pendulum just swung to such a massive degree where it seems like these employees, they've been working on everything other than ROI for the company, right? And what we're seeing now is that that pendulum is swinging back. And it's swinging back more to that old school military type world. We see Anduril really trying to take off. It's a $30.5 billion company right now. And then other people, other technology companies that see companies like Anduril, like wanting to feel that way. You see Mark Zuckerberg, you see Meta, they're supporting the military XR project as a $30 billion project by the U.S. Army for their warfighters program. We see Microsoft supporting Israel. We'll just leave that on the table for right now. They're supporting Israel. Right? We're starting to see more and more of these technology companies that used to seem, you know, that very BLM-ish, that very pastel fly, that very, yeah, we're on the right side of history, and you know, things are definitely swinging more towards throwing lead down range, let's just say. And so the important thing just to consider here is so many of the people that I've talked to, hundreds and hundreds of these calls with my viewers, and as I've said, they're not looking for how to solve problems. They're not looking for, I have this project that I'm trying to do. What stack should I deploy it to? Azure, AWS, DigitalOcean, right? That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for jobs. They're looking for jobs. And look, I get snarky on it just because it's a tiring, horrible question, right? In the best of times, it's a horrible question to answer. In these current times, I don't even want to go with it with somebody else's 10-foot pole, right? So I get snarky, but I get it, right? You need a job. You need a job. You have been lied to. You have been lied to and told that technology is the way to all of your hopes and dreams. Look, this is one career track. I've been in technology a long time. I like technology. It is a career track. If you're good at it, you can be very successful. But you can also fail miserably. I've been with the people with the tears. I've been with the people with the tears. So don't tell me this is all like, you know, cotton candy and fairy dust or whatever. And so I see so many people and they want to get a job. Their focus is not solving problems. Their focus is not the stacks or anything else. The focus is getting a job. And I just want to reinforce to these types of people that the culture is changing. The culture is reverting back to what it probably was about 20 years ago. And so how you act, how you talk, these types of things, you really need to consider how you're presenting yourself in professional or semi-professional environments. Because even what was acceptable a couple of years ago, I doubt would be acceptable now. I see it with these calls. So what's interesting with me is when you see these fireside chats, right? I'm talking to CEOs, I'm talking to CIOs, I'm talking to founders, that type of deal. These are the people that I talk to. These are the people that I hang out with. These are my peer group. If I've got a peer group, who knows if I have a peer group? But right, that's my peer group. One of the curious things when I have conversations with people trying to get jobs, it's amazing how many of these people, again, it's a semi-professional conversation. It's not hyper-professional. You don't need to be in a shirt and tie or whatever else, but you know, you're having a conversation with me. It's amazing how many of these people literally feel comfortable shitting on CEOs, founders, bosses, while I'm trying to talk with them. They'll be sitting there talking about how the corporation is stupid and how the boss is dumb and how these people screwed them over with me. And it's just, you know, that's my peer. You know, if I'm going to fall on a side, jackass, it's not going to be your side. You get that, right? And I don't feel like a lot of folks actually get that. We're having a conversation. We're not friends. We're not friends. And all the whole social hierarchy, I fall towards the bosses. I'm going to be going and having a beer with your boss as your boss complains about their shitty ass employee. I'm not going to be having a beer with you as you complain about your shitty ass boss. And the reason that I bring that up is I just see now so much of just this culture of the employees crapping on the hierarchy, crapping on the country, crapping on so much, and it's going to keep you from getting a job. look, protest what you want to protest. Look, if you work for Microsoft and you really want to put apartheid into your auto signature, don't let me stop you. Don't let me stop you putting apartheid into your auto signature. Just realize you're probably not going to keep that job for a long time. And you're probably not going to get a promotion. And when you sit there and you cry and you bitch and you moan about it, you made decisions. You made calls. You decided to stand on that soapbox and scream to the company what your values were. And they went, oh, well, time for you to leave. So anyways, something to think about there and something to ponder. The other thing to be thinking about too, if you run these technology companies, is you really have to start thinking about your counterintelligence operations. I brought this up years ago. So Scott Abel hasn't been CEO of Spiceworks for years, so I can say it. So Spiceworks was one of my best sponsors way back when the Daily Blob was a live show. And I got flown out to Austin to Spiceworks, and I have this whole interview series where I did Scott Abel. He was a CEO, so I did the CEO, the CTO, somebody else. It was like 5 interviews. I stayed there for a week. I did 2-hour interviews every single day with a different one of the executives, whole 9 yards. The interesting thing is so with Spiceworks, right? So Spiceworks is a free product and you use it to do network discovery. So you install it on one of your computers in your network, it goes out, discovers every other device in your network, and then you can plug in additional information. And then this gets all saved in their cloud infrastructure. So yeah. So you install their software, which does a network scan, and then all of that goes up to their cloud infrastructure. Anyways, has anybody heard of vulnerability? So we're doing a nice little 2-hour conversation. At some point, I just asked, hey, out of curiosity, this is 2015. This was years ago. This was 10 years ago. 2014 maybe. Almost 11 years ago. I was like, so, counterintelligence. How does this company deal with it? And literally it was like, ha, what do you mean? And it's like, well, you're having people download free software into their systems, doing network discovery, the whole 9 yards. And basically, he laughed off the question, and then we moved along because I wanted to get my paycheck at the end of the day. Right? But it was a very interesting experience. Again, that was a company. If we're ever going to talk about counterintelligence, Spiceworks needs counterintelligence, just period. How do you know the people in your company are not assets of, and again, we talk about assets. Oh, how do you know they're not assets of China? How do you know they're not assets, what we saw with Twitter, somebody was arrested. How do you know they're not assets of Saudi Arabia, of all places? How do you not know they're not an asset of France? We're looking at you, France. How do you know they're not an asset of the mafia or some hacking collective or something like that? Right? You're collecting all of this information. People are trusting your systems. All of this is being saved. How do you know that your employees are not assets of another organization? And we talk about this. It is important to be thinking about this, even with the U.S. intelligence agencies. One of the problems that I see is that U.S. intelligence agencies really don't seem to comprehend the Constitution. They go, by the letter of the Constitution as they see it, not quite the what we would think of as the meaning of the Constitution, right? We saw this with NSA. NSA literally spliced a man-in-the-middle attack between 2 Yahoo data centers, right? There were 2 Yahoo data centers. They were connected by a fiber line. Basically, NSA went in, they clipped the middle of the fiber line, they created a man-in-the-middle attack in order to collect the information that was going between those 2 Yahoo data centers. We saw the NSA basically in transit grabbing Cisco equipment, opening the Cisco equipment, like literally opening the physical Cisco equipment, adding hardware components to the Cisco equipment, sealing everything up real nice and neat, and shipping it off to the end user with those vulnerabilities installed. We've seen this type of stuff from the NSA. And the NSA and the intelligence agencies seem to be so utterly stupid, or their heads are so firmly up their ass, they don't realize how much that damages the reputation globally for the United States technology companies, right? Why should anybody trust U.S. technology companies when our own intelligence agencies seem to have zero issue violating trust, whether or not it's violating the actual law or constitution is a bit of another story. And so something to be thinking about is if you have military people or if you have veterans in your company, how do you know they're not assets? Right? Somebody comes to them and says, hey, we think somebody is doing something bad on your systems. I don't suppose you can. Would you even know if that occurred? It is things to ponder, things to think about. So what do you think about this? Palantir, Meta, OpenAI, and that other company. What was the other company? OpenAI. Anyways, what do you think about these folks becoming commissioned officers in the U.S. military? What do you think about their supreme boss being Trump? What do you think about their supreme boss being Trump after Trump deployed Marines to LA? Oh, what a timeline we live in. How do you feel about all this? How do you feel about counterintelligence operations? Do you work for a tech company? Do you work for a tech startup? Have you ever considered counterintelligence? Not cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a thing. Have you ever considered counterintelligence? And if you haven't, do you think that's a wise thing? Anyways, some things to ponder. And with that, see y'all later.